Hello, my name is Dimitri Martinovich. It's late March 2020, and the COVID-19 pandemic has engulfed the world. And by now, we are all too familiar with terms like social distancing, quarantine, self-isolation, lockdown, panic. With everyone being forced to stay inside, what is the fate of those members of our society who are living in shelters, street people who are attending drop-ins, and those who are completely homeless? How are they managing? To get a sense of what's going on in the streets, in shelters, and other facilities involved in providing critical care for the most vulnerable in our society, we are joined by David Reycraft, who is Director of Housing at Dixon Hall, a large social service agency here in Toronto.
My name is David Reycraft. I'm the Director of Housing Services at Dixon Hall. And Dixon Hall is a multi-service agency. I am the Director of Housing Services, which is the largest department in Dixon. We support homeless men and women living in the emergency shelter system and individuals who are moving into housing after having significant periods of homelessness.
I asked David, what are some of the main issues facing frontline workers?
Right now, we're faced with situations where people are cheek to jowl in respite services and emergency shelter programs. We're continuing to follow the guidelines presented to us by Toronto Public Health, and that is, regular hand washing, social distancing, which is 6 feet between each of us and other individuals that we're engaged with. Those are difficult things to enforce in a respite that is overcrowded.
Medical respite care is an important part of the continuum of care for individuals experiencing homelessness. It refers to recuperative or convalescent care for those who are not ill enough to require hospitalization, but are too sick or vulnerable to be discharged to the streets, an emergency shelter, or unsafe housing.
We have reduced the number of people living in the respite from 100 individuals down to 80, and hope that there will be another decrease in the number of individuals living there, so we'll be able to extend social distancing to reduce the likelihood of transmission in those complex environments. So we've housed in the last week and a half, I think, like 9 people. That's significant in the current housing market. So we're moving people to live independently, and we're being able to provide support to them in housing, which is preferable to hundreds of people living in emergency shelters and respite services.
I asked David, what sort of supports have you received from the City of Toronto?
The city has opened 9 new community centers, or 9 new shelters in the last 12 days, in an effort to sort of extend the distance between individuals and reduce the likelihood of transmission. So it's pretty remarkable what the city has done. And I think in many ways there are opportunities for us to use our learnings through this pandemic to sort of better serve the homeless men and women, or people who find themselves homeless as we get beyond this. So it is, I hope, and it will certainly be one of my tasks, and I'll see it as my responsibility to engage in discussions about transforming our housing ecosystem in the city of Toronto.
And for people who have found housing, will they have to go through self-isolation or quarantine once they've entered some form of housing?
Not necessarily. We have a process of screening individuals who are exhibiting symptoms that might be associated with COVID-19. In that case, there would be a period of self-isolation, or they would go through the process established by Toronto Public Health, where they would go to be tested at a center and then go to an isolation center for a period of time.
So, and what about people who are, for instance, your clients or people that you're working with who might need extra medical services or assistance during this time? How is that working out?
Well, it's challenging. I would be remiss if I said that all was going smoothly. It's not. These kinds of pressures, this is uncharted waters for all of us. And so there's a lot of place where we need additional supports in the respite services. And it is a place that we were getting to, but that has changed dramatically over the last 2 weeks since the World Health Organization designated COVID-19 as a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we talked about on our last the last time we spoke, Dimitri, about the 10-year housing plan and how in the 10-year housing plan there were measures to create 1,800 supportive housing units per year over the next 10 years. That's 18,000. And I think that there are opportunities to demonstrate through this process how important those supportive housing units are. And supportive housing means exactly what it says. It's an opportunity to move people from street homelessness into housing units where we have trained professional staff who support them to maintain their housing. The transition from homelessness, and some of the people we work with are individuals who've been homeless for decades, it requires a lot. I met a man yesterday who'd been street homeless a man who we housed recently, who's been street homeless for 8 years, told me that I asked him how he was adjusting to his new home, and he said, well, it's difficult. I can't sleep in my bed yet. So we know that he has a bed, we got him a bed, but he hasn't gotten to a place where he can sleep in bed. So that takes time.
Beyond the present COVID-19 crisis, what are the long-term goals of Dixon Hall and other social service agencies involved with the homeless population of Toronto?
Well, when I think about changes, I think about the need to move away from shelters, and that's particularly evident as we move through the COVID-19 crisis, where we're faced with social distancing challenges in the emergency shelter system, in the respite service system, where we are just unprepared for a pandemic. So, I think that I've been thinking over the last 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks yet, it feels like a very long time ago, but not even in the last 2 weeks, we've seen this dramatic change in how we serve the population we serve. And what has become clear to us, and I've been thinking about in particular, is that life would be much different if these people were housed, if they were in supportive housing units. So I think that way we would be able to work with people living in their homes, we would be able to provide medical supports in their homes, people would be able to be isolated in supportive housing that they live in, and but that's not the way it is. That's not where we're at right now. This might expedite the transition from emergency shelters to transitional, supportive, and deeply affordable housing. In doing that, we also need to think about transitioning workforces to gain the experience that they need and to have a more focused kind of attention to needs of individuals moving from homelessness into housing. Well, I also think that we should be thinking about the crisis that we're living through right now as an opportunity to transform the sector and how to assure that we do a better job of creating an ecosystem and communities that welcome everyone. It's remarkable to see how the workforce and our city has mobilized around COVID-19 and changed direction to support the most marginalized and vulnerable men and women in our society. It's by no means perfect, but we're doing the best we can.
Thank you, David, for sharing your experience and insight in this most urgent of times. I am Dmitry Martinovich, and this is RPTV. Please join us as we continue to report on stories of critical importance.
Like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, follow us on all our social media platforms. And don't forget to visit our website, as well as comment down below what you thought about this video.